The AK15 is the first assault rifle you unlock in BattleBit Remastered after spending some time with the M4 and the AK74, and man, what a beast it is. The intense recoil, the slow rate of fire, and man oh man, that satisfying damage output. It's one hell of a recipe, but how does one master it? G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're going to be doing a review for the AK15 Assault Rifle in BattleBit Remastered. So folks, diving straight into the review here, here's how today's video is going to be laid out. We're going to start off with a breakdown of the AK-15's stats, talking to the weapon's pros and cons. We'll then get into some analysis and some tips and tricks for using the AK-15 to the height of its powers. And finally, we'll wrap up with some discussion around attachment options available to the AK-15 and how we can take that weapon to the next level in your gameplay. Before we go any further though, I do want to take a quick moment to thank BattleBit community member Oxygen. He's been looking at BattleBit weapons and mechanics far longer than I have been and has graciously provided me an excellent spreadsheet that collates all weapon damage over distances, TTKs, and other stats. It's gone a really long way in allowing me to make these videos quickly and accurately for you guys, so do me a favor and give him some love in the comment section down below because he really does underpin a lot of these weapon reviews through his work. But without further ado, let's get into the nitty and the gritty about the AK-15's stats here today. As is tradition, we're going to be kicking off with the damage here today, and oh boy, are we kicking off in one big way, ladies and gentlemen. Coming in as the heaviest hitting weapon that we've officially reviewed on the channel so far, the AK-15 sports a maximum damage of 40 per shot to 151 meters, dropping off to a minimum damage of 14 at 299 meters. Which, yep, translates to a very, very juicy 3-shot kill all the way out to that 151 meter mark. And that goes for both unarmored and lightly armored targets as well, by the way. There's just no denying it, the weapon hits like an absolute truck. And anyone caught on the wrong side of this thing's barrel is going to get their guts rearranged. But not in the kind of way that you would see on other video streaming platforms. Unfortunately, we do see that bullet to kill threshold drop to a 4-shot kill against medium armored targets, but let's just say that we can improve on that, and we'll loop back to that in the attachments section of this video. Now, let's just say you rattle someone's head cage with some good, well-placed headshots with the AK-15, and oh boy, will the AK-15 come to the party in a good way. Well, to a certain extent, that is. With a 60 damage per shot out to 151 meters on headshots, we are looking at a 2-shot kill against anyone not wearing a helmet, which is pretty devastating as far as deleting people in record time is concerned. Across the board, due to the AK-15's solid baseline damage output, we're also treated to a pretty sweet damage consistency over range. As you can probably see from the gameplay here, the recoil kick is obviously going to heavily limit the AK-15's effective full auto range, but if you ever feel the need to switch to semi-auto fire and just tap fire the weapon over an extended distance, then its damage does carry itself in a very good way over that distance. With a 540 rounds per minute or 9.0 rounds per second fire rate, we aren't exactly winning any races in the rate of fire department here, but it also isn't taking the medal for the slowest firing gun in the assault rifle category either, so that's a plus. But this leads us nicely here to the time to kill, and yeah, look, don't let the slower rate of fire deter you guys. Here we are looking at some incredibly juicy time to kills for the assault rifle category. In fact, the AK-15 is the second fastest killing assault rifle in the category, clocking in at 222 milliseconds in the best case scenario, only extending out to a worst case scenario of 778 milliseconds against unarmored targets. And again, given the place that puts the AK-15 when it comes to time to kill against other weapons out there, that's very impressive and is a lot to write home about. Now obviously, as you extend all the way out to an exo wearer at the minimum damage range, things get a bit crazy, but in most situations, we are sat here with a pretty reliable firearm when it comes to the raw time to kill potential. But it also gets better. If you throw those cheeky headshots into the mix, you are greeted by a whopping 111 millisecond time to kill against unarmored targets. And again, because the headshot damage here is 60 and the body shot damage is 40, all you need to do is hit one headshot on an unarmored target and they'll go down in 2 bullets to kill regardless. you don't even need to score 2 headshots, and that again is a crazy win for the AK-15. As you can also see with headshots, we're also greeted by a consistent 222 millisecond time to kill across all armor classes that actually want to wear some head protection. That is some crazy consistency, and it really paints a strong picture that if you want to put the AK-15 to the best use, headshots are going to be key here, but more on that in a second. As always, just want to be clear in mentioning that these time to kill stats are theoretical in nature, assuming that all bullets hit either the chest or the head areas sequentially, with 100% accuracy and no bullet travel time from you to the target. And obviously, the further a target is away from you, the less accurate you are likely to be in full auto situations, so just remember that when you're factoring in these time to kill stats. So the AK-15 is definitely giving us a lot to love here initially, but as we move into the handling of the AK-15, we can start to see it pay back some of those debts acquired from having such an amazing damage output. Here, we are welcomed with a very heavy recoil kick, clocking in at 1.60 vertical kick and an arm-shattering, tumble-drying 2.1 horizontal kick. Easily and without question, the heaviest recoil kick we've seen on this series of reviews so far in both the vertical and horizontal side of things, and is easily the one element of the AK-15 that is likely going to get in the way of a lot of new players enjoying the gun immediately upon unlocking it, especially given that we're coming from the likes of the M401 and the AK-74, both of which feature very light horizontal kicks per shot by comparison and are typically a little easier to control. You're going to learn real quick with the AK-15 that it does not mess around. But don't fret. Of course, there are some ways to reel it back in with attachments, but thankfully as well, due to the weapon's lower rate of fire, the recoil occurs at a slower pace, which actually gives a sense of it being a bit more wrangleable, if that's a word. I'm going to go with that. But yeah, because the weapon's recoil occurs less frequently, it's going to feel less cumulative as a result. We also do have a slightly less accurate platform with the AK-15 here with a cone of fire of 75, but it ain't the end of the world here for the weapon. It still is relatively accurate for an assault rifle category. Now, given that we also only have a 24 round mag here as well, we're also rocking some pretty rough reload speeds here too. The extra damage per shot does balance the smaller magazine out quite nicely, but there's no denying that when it comes to reload time, you're going to have to quickly find some leeway to work with here. A 3.93 second reload time with a tack reload of 3.37 seconds is not much to write home about, and if you completely empty the mag, get ready to sit through 5.4 seconds of reload animation before you can get back into the action again. And unfortunately, there's something else here too. The AK-15 follows the light support gun approach of hitting you with some movement speed penalties. More specifically, much like the L86A1 that we just reviewed, we have a 0.95% run speed attached to the weapon, which is going to force some much more tactical and calculated plays by you, as opposed to just numing around in open areas. It's something that took me a lot of time to get used to with my first few rounds of the AK-15, it has to be said. The only other weapon that sports this characteristic in the assault rifle category is the Scar H. So yeah, it's a relatively unique, but rather troublesome nerf to work around while using an assault rifle. We also have a slowed aiming down sights time of 300 milliseconds here too, which adds fuel to that fire. But that, folks, right there is the AK-15, and I've got to be honest with you all, this was a weapon that definitely took me a little bit of time to get the hang of. That slower movement speed is definitely something that you're going to feel in your travels as you're moving around the battlefield, and it really forces you to think twice for a second about, beelining across an open field to a new piece of cover. Now, thankfully, because this is an assault rifle and can be played on, say, the medic class, which has access to healing, you can certainly get away with aggressive plays more than you could than, say, with the L86A1 on the support, just thanks to the added utility that comes from the medic class. But regardless of that, the AK-15 certainly demands a slightly different approach to the ones that you might be used to in when you are using other assault rifles. And I think that we can see that in some of the gameplay that we're running here in the background. We are being aggressive in our plays and we're pressing the issue as I normally would as a rather aggressive player, but I'm doing so in a way that's a bit more methodical. We're using the weapon's insane time to kill and bullet to kill efficiency to clear multiple targets per mag, and only pushing up sort of incrementally at a pace that works for the weapon. And I think that once you get that pace down pat, it's going to really work with you. The recoil here does encourage you to play somewhat aggressively too. Given its shaky horizontal nature, it wants you to get close and perform in a range where a shaky weapon will be less brutal. And again, despite this weapon's hefty damage per shot, using it at a range and an extended standard range per se with that horizontal kick in play is certainly going to feel very difficult to manage at times. But by the same token, the AK-17 is not like an SMG where you charge into a building and just spray down a bunch of dudes without thinking. The AK-15 demands precision, otherwise it will spit back in your face and tell you to go on home. And just to sort of echo on that point a little bit there, the biggest tip that I can give to using the AK-15 is to really emphasize taking your time to get your crosshair placement right, or your aim right. Using that slower rate of fire to make sure that every bullet counts is going to go a very long way. Every time you miss with this gun, the punishment is only going to be exacerbated because, well, it's going to take the weapon longer to cycle a new round through to your target. That's just the nature of a slower firing weapon. And any opponent out there that's rocking a faster firing weapon is just going to take advantage of that miss in a heartbeat. In addition to that point, given the weapon's hefty horizontal recoil, sometimes the right answer is just letting go of the trigger. You know, recentering and going for another burst on the target. If the horizontal recoil gets away from you, there's no point in painting an outline around the target, or, you know, plastering the window that they're hiding in a bunch of bullets. As I said, take a moment, recenter, and put the weapon's hefty payload back on target. And again, if you manage to do this, you actually take advantage of the AK-15's heavy hitting payload, and you unlock one of the most incredible magazine economies in the assault rifle category in the game. But okay, let's move on to the attachment options for the day and see how you can best build the AK-15. Today we have two builds for you guys, one of which is entirely designed to mitigate the recoil of the weapon and make it as accurate as possible, and the other is actually going to sacrifice some of that recoil control to make the weapon even deadlier in the damage department. Let's start off with build number 1 here, which is pretty standard issue for us on the channel. Take a red dot sight of your choice, run the quick aim mag to bring the reload speed down by 0.66 of a second, while also sporting no negatives whatsoever, which is quite a nice bonus to the AK-15. And the most important two of the build in my opinion, run the BCM gunfighter grip and the tactical muzzle brake. Collectively, these two attachments shave a good deal of the horizontal and vertical recoil kick off the gun entirely. And comparatively to where we started, it kind of makes it a bit of a laser beam if I'm being honest. It feels far more consistent, with the BCM gunfighter grip in particular really going above and beyond to reel in that horizontal kick. It really takes the AK-15 from being a bit of a handful to use to being something that's almost a little too efficient for its own recoil pattern. So that's the more accurate build here, right? But as I said, we actually have another build in the video today that makes the AK-15 a little bit more potent and consistent against more targets in the game. And yes, all of the attachments are going to look the same here on first glance, minus one small detail, that being the muzzle attachment, which as you can see is now the long barrel. The long barrel adds an additional 2 damage points to the AK-15's maximum damage payload, which may not seem like a lot, I get that. And while that number doesn't have an impact on, say, unarmored targets, you are in for a real treat when it comes to players wearing medium armors and helmets. By equipping the long barrel, the AK-15's body shot time to kill against medium armor plating is improved by 1 shot, giving it that optimal 3-shot kill against what is essentially the most popular armor class in the game. But on top of that, it also reduces the medium helmet bullet to kill threshold by 1 as well, giving you a 2-shot kill against, again, opponents who are running the most commonly worn helmet class in the game. And that level of consistency goes a long way in maximizing what the AK-15 can do, and is something that I really highly recommend you explore should you find the recoil manageable without the tactical barrel attachment. And that's something that can definitely be learnt over time. Now, the long barrel actually does add, independently, some vertical recoil back into the picture, but it doesn't exacerbate the horizontal recoil like the heavy barrel does. So it's very much the lesser of two evils there when it comes to getting the benefit of that damage boost. But folks, with all of that said, there you have it, the weapon review on the AK15 Assault Rifle. I'm very interested to hear in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on the weapon. Are you enjoying the AK15? Do you think it's a piece of crap? Let us know. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts down below. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video and you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for more BattleBit content, and of course hit that like button as well, guys. It does go a long way to helping the video get out into the YouTube algorithm and to new friends. And as always, I highly recommend you guys check out our social media links, including our Twitch channel, where we stream 3 times a week, and we're doing a lot of BattleBit there at the moment as well. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.